the 100-year-old doll that haunts a Canadian museum. A porcelain face, cracked right down the cheek. A glass case that, no matter how many times staff adjust it, just never quite stays shut. And in the inky blackness of the museum basement, the chilling sound of a baby crying long after the building is locked up tight and everyone's gone home. What gives? Well, in 1991, a woman named Marianda drove to the Quesnel District Museum in British Columbia with one desperate goal: drop off this doll and never, ever look back. She hoped with every fiber of her being that the incessant sobbing in her own house would finally stop. And it did. But here's the kicker. The moment staff carried that doll inside, their own nightmare began. 100 years old, dressed in a faded blue pinafore and answering only to the name Mandy, she is now known as Canada's most playful, yet undeniably most possessive haunted object. And she's absolutely waiting for you to visit. From the outside, Quesnel looks like a picture of tranquility. Charming log cabins, relics from the gold rush era, and air so crisp it smells perpetually of pine. It's the kind of place where nothing much seems to stir, where history feels gently preserved, not actively restless. Inside the museum, volunteer curator Ruth Napora vividly remembers that specific July afternoon when Marianda arrived. She walked in, a woman clearly at the end of her rope, clutching a bundled doll. She said, "Take her, please. I can't stand the sobbing any longer," Ruth recalls, the memory still sending a shiver down her spine. The staff, perhaps a little skeptical but mostly just trying to be helpful, unpacked the doll, set her on a lab table for safekeeping, locked up, and went home, probably anticipating a quiet evening. Next morning, however, the room looked like a toddler's tantrum had just ripped through it. Files strewn across the floor like fallen leaves, drawers yanked open, and a heavy ceramic mug shattered into 100 pieces. The unsettling part? There was no forced entry, no sign of a break-in, just Mandy making her rather dramatic introduction. At first, it was just petty stuff, the kind of mischief you might dismiss as an absent-minded colleague or a strong gust of wind. Staff lunches would vanish from the fridge, only to mysteriously reappear hours later, sometimes in the model railroad display case, sometimes perched precariously on a high shelf. Pens didn't just disappear. They'd migrate into ceiling panels, wedged into cracks like tiny mischievous darts, or they'd turn up in the most illogical places, like inside a sealed exhibit. One volunteer, a meticulous woman, swore she left her reading glasses on her desk, only to find them later impossibly balanced between Mandy's stitched fingers. People laughed, nervously of course. Then the quirks escalated. The audio guide, designed to inform visitors about the exhibit, started skipping only when near Mandy's case. New batteries, fresh from the pack, would die in minutes if placed in devices close to her. A visiting teacher trying to capture Mandy's image for a school project found every single frame of the doll smeared with inexplicable white bands, yet her shots of the heavy mining tools next door were perfectly crisp. Word quickly spread among the staff, a hushed understanding. She doesn't like paparazzi. These days, Mandy sits in a sturdy plexiglass cube, a clear barrier between her and the curious public.
But even the most seasoned curators admit it still feels like she owns the entire room. Security guard Darryl Baker, a man not easily spooked, does the 10 p.m. rounds with his flashlight, a nightly ritual in the quiet, echoing museum. I've seen her head tilt a fraction, just enough to track me as I walk by, he says, his voice a little lower when he talks about Mandy. I talk to her like a prisoner, like, "Easy girl, I'm only checking the lights." Visitors often report the exact same unnerving sensation, eyes that seem to swivel a stare that sticks with you long after you've left the exhibit hall. One 9-year-old left the museum in tears, absolutely convinced the doll had blinked faster than any human possibly could, her small face pale with fright. It's that unsettling prickle on the back of your neck, that feeling of being observed even when you know it's just a doll. The museum staff learned a hard lesson early on. Never give Mandy competition. They once displayed a prized set of World War-era teddy bears directly opposite her case. These were antique, well-loved bears that had survived global conflict, only to meet their match against a porcelain doll. Overnight, every single bear was found toppled, some with arms ripped, others with glass eyes popped out, staring blankly at the ceiling. It was a scene of utter doll-on-doll mayhem. Another time, a fluffy lamb placed beside her as company to perhaps soothe her lonely spirit was later discovered outside its locked case, its felt ear not just chewed, but almost deliberately shredded. Coincidence? Maybe, if you wanted to stretch the definition, except the security footage for that entire corridor was mysteriously corrupted. 12 crucial minutes of the night's events were reduced to nothing but digital snow and static. The message was clear. Mandy prefers to be the sole star of the show. Miranda, the woman who donated Mandy, agreed to only one phone interview back in 2003. Her voice, even years later, carried the weight of her experience. She explained that the crying started after she pried open an old, forgotten trunk inherited from her grandmother. Inside lay the doll, straw stuffing matted, cheeks rubbed raw from age and neglect. I felt watched from the minute I lifted her out, Miranda recalled, the memory still fresh and chilling.
Night after night, she endured the relentless sound of an infant sobbing, seemingly coming from under her floorboards. She called plumbers, exterminators, everyone she could think of, but nothing. The source remained elusive, the crying constant. The night she finally delivered the doll to the museum was, she confirmed, the first silence her house had known in months. It was an instant, profound relief. To this day, she still refuses to set foot in Quesnel again, a testament to the deep-seated fear Mandy had instilled in her. In 1999, the world came calling. Producers for the Montel Williams show flew Mandy to New York, under strict escort of course, to tape a Halloween episode dedicated to haunted antiques. Psychic Sylvia Brown, a prominent figure in the paranormal world at the time, handled the doll on air. She dramatically declared that a lonely child spirit clung to Mandy, likely one of two twins who had tragically died from polio. While Sylvia Brown's track record for accuracy was, shall we say, a bit spotty, the ratings for that episode soared. The museum's phone immediately began ringing off the hook. Buses full of curious tourists, some skeptical, some genuinely terrified, started arriving in Quesnel. The museum staff, quickly adapting to their new celebrity resident, set out a guest book. Pages filled rapidly with apologies. Sorry, Mandy, for staring. Sorry for taking photos. Everyone, it seemed, hoped a little courtesy would keep her calm and prevent any further mischief. By 2010, Mandy's legend had grown so much that serious paranormal investigators couldn't resist. The paranormal road trippers arrived, armed with all their high-tech gear. EMF pumps buzzing, infrared cams scanning the silent air, and a REM pod, a sophisticated piece of ghost hunting tech designed to light up when touched by unseen hands. Investigator Dana Johns described feeling a distinct, static, hair-raising energy in the room. The REM pod, sitting innocently on a table, suddenly flashed as if slapped, yet nothing visible stood before it. they caught no definitive electronic voice phenomena, EVP, those ghostly whispers that investigators often seek. But during playback of their audio recordings, a faint, childlike hum underlay the background noise, rising, then abruptly cutting off the instant Dana spoke Mandy's name. It was inconclusive evidence, yes, but enough for Dana to conclude with a serious expression. Something intelligent is manipulating energy in that room. The air, she noted, felt thick with unseen presence.
The museum, now seasoned veterans in Mandy's peculiar ways, meticulously keeps a log of after effects reported by visitors. It's a chilling read. A couple from Calgary, after visiting Mandy, found their camera function completely dead. On the long drive home, their car alarm began screaming every dusk, a relentless, piercing shriek that only ceased when they, half jokingly, half desperately, apologized aloud to Mandy. A Surrey collector rather brazenly mocked the doll through her plexiglass cage. Later, she found her own prized porcelain figurine smashed to pieces at home, the only item stolen during a break-in. A local boy, daring and perhaps a little foolish, teased Mandy through the glass, making faces. That very night, his family's smoke detector chirped non-stop, a maddening, incessant sound, until his exasperated mom marched him right back to the museum to sign the apology book. The lesson, for anyone who dares to interact with Mandy, seems to be clear. Show respect, or prepare to pay a peculiar price. These days, Mandy rests alone in a dim corner, her space clearly marked with a "Please do not tap glass" sign. Curators expertly rotate other exhibits around her, but she undeniably remains the museum's undisputed star attraction. School groups, perhaps instructed by their teachers or simply moved by her eerie presence, often leave her tiny Lego flowers as offerings. She, of course, ignores them. Adults, a little more practical, slip tiny candy bags at the base of her case, which staff dutifully remove at closing. The guest book, a thick tome now, overflows with over 5,000 entries. They range from the whimsical to the deeply unsettling. One simply reads, "I'm sorry I doubted you, Mandy. The batteries in my phone dropped from 87% to 0 in 12 seconds flat." Another, more reflective, states, "I came for Gold Rush history. I left believing toys can hold grudges, and that history isn't always just in books." It's a quiet testament to her enduring power. Enjoying Mandy's truly eerie saga? Don't let the chills end here. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because every single month I dive deep into the world's most haunted objects. And trust me, you absolutely don't want the algorithm hiding the next one from you. Now, take a deep breath. We're not done with Mandy's story just yet. Unlike some of the darker, more malevolent artifacts out there, think the infamous Annabelle doll or the terrifying Dybbuk box, Mandy's incidents consistently stop at mischief. There are no reports of scratches, no possessions, no hospitalized victims. Parapsychologists who've studied her suggest that the energy she projects is likely that of a lonely child who desperately wants attention, not to inflict pain or harm. The museum staff, who spend the most time around her, largely agree with this assessment. She's like the kid who knocks over your blocks just so you'll play with them. Assistant curator Lori Gulitsen laughs, a wry, almost affectionate understanding in her voice. Still, despite their theories, they never turn their back on her case. Perhaps that's precisely why she stays peaceful. She's always watched, finally part of a family, even if that family is a steady, revolving stream of strangers and curious onlookers. She gets the attention she craves. Despite all the stories and investigations, so many questions about Mandy still linger, swirling around her like the dust motes in her display case. Who owned her first? The porcelain head is stamped simply Germany, but the craftsman's marks wore off decades ago, taking with them any hope of tracing her original maker. Was she truly a comfort to sick twins, as Sylvia Brone claimed? Or did the psychic invent that poignant tale for television drama, adding a layer of tragic mystique to Mandy's past? And why, after 33 years safely housed in the museum, does the basement still echo with phantom footsteps the night after large crowds have visited? Staff dutifully catalog new reports every single month, each answer they uncover seeming to breed yet another riddle, deepening the enigma that is Mandy. Her history remains as cracked and mysterious as her porcelain face. Stand in front of Mandy long enough and you'll feel it, that undeniable, almost primal pull to apologize to something made of cloth and sawdust, the unnerving certainty that something behind those glassy pupils is actively sizing you up. Is it child spirit truly hitching a ride in this century-old doll? A restless energy trapped in porcelain and fabric? Or have thousands of breathless stories, whispers, and urban legends simply stacked up, creating one powerful suggestion that your mind can't possibly shake? Either way, the Quesnel Museum isn't sending her anywhere. She's become an irreplaceable part of the tour, a local legend, and a magnet for the curious. So if you ever find yourself in British Columbia, drive up, sign the book, and maybe, just maybe, she'll let you leave with your phone batteries intact. Would you take the risk? Tell me below in the comments, and sorry in advance if your phone mysteriously dies while you're typing.